and welcome to Legends and Laughs, where laughter is always on the menu and the stories are bigger than life itself.
Now, I know a thing or two about show business. You could say it's in my blood. I was born and raised in Texas, found my way to New York City to study at NYU, and I landed a job as a producer with CBS, NBC, and Broadway. And well, life became a lot more interesting when I met Pat Cooper at the Friars Club. From the hustle and bustle of New York City to the glitz and glamour of Las Vegas, I've had the privilege of being surrounded by some of the funniest and most talented people in the world. And today, you'll hear from people who knew Pat, who Pat knew, and in ways you won't hear anywhere else.
So sit back and relax and get ready to hear some stories that'll make you laugh, cry, and maybe even scratch your head a little. This is Legends and Laughs, where the humor never stops and the legends never fade.
Hello, everyone. My name is Emily Connor Cooper, and welcome to Legends and Laughs. We have a great lineup of guests for the future for the show, and our first one today is Nelson Sardelli, who is a legendary performer and resident here. He's lived here for 60 years. He's quite a character. He's a close friend. Nelson, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like,
here.
after you gave all your qualifications, I think it's fair enough for me to tell people that I'm a high school dropout. I gotta tell you something.
You're a street guy.
Yes. You are what people love to have when newcomers come to a city. You came and you really you assimilated. Not only did you assimilate, but you contributed. I've seen you being involved with projects that other folks that have been in Vegas for many, many years never bother doing. So you're gonna do wonderful. And like I said, I love you, as friend, as wife of Pat, but I think you're really very good for Las Vegas. And I believe your show is gonna be fun. I have only one suggestion, and I gotta say it. Considering that you're gonna be dealing with entertainers, your show should not just be Legends and Laughs. It should be Legends, Laughs, and Liars. Because it's gonna be, trust me, there's gonna be a lot of it.
It makes sense.
Yeah, not only this, in case you get sued by anybody, you say, no, it was lies.
Right.
That's good.
That's our disclaimer right off the bat. That makes absolute sense.
Yes.
And I got to tell you, Pat did have stories that he would tell, and he had, his versions were a little bit enhanced, but he would always stick to the same version. So he would never admit that or never call it a lie, but he certainly enhanced the stories.
Yeah, but I got to tell you something about Pat. Pat was as funny away from the stage, just being with him on the street and doing stuff that was really, really off the wall. And I loved it, yeah. By the way, I hope you don't mind, I'm a little uncomfortable here. I'm sitting and I don't know. So.
That was your birthday present one year.
Yes, yes.
Check the sequence. That's a trip.
Very good.
Oh, as I understand, that is in your living room.
My living room, sure.
Yes. So you'll never forget Pat. That's
not at all.
You certainly don't need a pillow, but Pat was certainly funny all the time. You never know what you were going to get with this guy. Like this show, it's going to be like the box of chocolates. With him, it was a box of chocolates. You never know what you were going to get with the guy. And, people would be on edge a little bit with him, but he was naturally funny.
And that's what, not only naturally funny, but he told like it is. Yeah, which is, I love it.
One of the reasons that I've gotten involved with the town is because I'm very passionate about it. It's a fascinating town.
Well, yes, but you see, but it takes a special person to really come and assimilate the way you do. I'm not here to, throw accolades at you and what happened. I was talking to my personal wife, which is another very efficient person that I ever met. I told her, I want to die. When I die, I want to be cremated. She made an appointment for Tuesday.
I don't blame him. We'll be right back with more Legends and Laughs with Nelson Sardelli. And we're back now with Nelson Sardelli from Las Vegas, the legendary entertainer and character. So, Nelson, you are from Brazil originally, right?
By birth, I am Brazilian. My parents, Italians. And that's why I was talking about assimilation. When you go to someplace else to live, you go there and become a part of it. My father taught me this when he came from Italy to Brazil. He said, you got to be a part of it. You can tell how beautiful your country are and everything if people ask. But, you're here now. Nobody sent for you. You came roll legally.
In 1965, right?
No, I came in 56.
Where did you live then?
Oh, when I first came, I went to Michigan because, I was about to become 22. And I thought I was going to get a job in General Motors because in Brazil I worked for General Motors. And that didn't happen. So I did a few other things, like was a dancing teacher, working construction one day, and things like that. And I was, drafted into the United States Army, which those are the things that I loved, the way, my life progressed. And I knew that eventually I would get into show business, but I had no idea how it was going to happen.
Well, when you moved here in 65, speaking of on the street...
In Vegas.
In Vegas,
Yeah.
to Vegas. Speaking of on the street where you live, you have an interesting story about your street, right? With characters on your street and people who live there.
Not right on 65. On 65, I lived in an apartment that is no longer there. It's behind Treasure Island, which is all...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no.
Well-
But then I moved into the house that I still live in
72?
71, 72, yes. And I was surrounded by, colorful people. Across the street was one of the Herb Mills from the Mills Brothers. Wonderful talent.
Didn't you work with them at the Flamingo?
With the Mills Brothers, yes.
Yes, we have a photo of that.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The sign.
Yes. And then in a little while, Vic Damone lived across the street for a while.
Wow.
So that our kids played together. And then Al Bramlett, a guy that was the head of the union. And he had a tragic death, they killed him. And they could not find what was happening. So there was a lot of helicopters over our neighborhood. And at the time, my wife was planting some fig trees. So we had big holes. And the helicopter was flying over, says, fig. It's not for bodies, it's for pigs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just on your street, and you still live there in that same house. It's a very interesting house.
Well, I went through a lot of changes. I Italianized somewhat with a found.
Well, and you have a couple pictures in there, too, on the walls.
Oh, yeah, that I thank my wife because she has one. I never just about as big as this here that she covered with, some of my pictures with the different people that I met through the years. But we're running out of wall.
Yes, you certainly are. Well, you really do have photos with everybody pretty much. It's a little overwhelming. I was going through them the other day, and I just think about all the stories that you have. You could talk all day long about the story.
Oh, yeah, because I'm been very lucky with the people I met, and I got along with everybody. And of course, I stay away from people that are toxic or from people that are pain in the neck. And in show business, there are some who are.
Yes.
Not too many. That's the lies part of your show. And I've been very lucky, you know, people that in my life in Brazil, I would never know that I would be in contact with those people, Judy Garland and Lee Marvin, you know, Burt Lancaster. I mean, give me a break, you know. Those things doesn't happen to anybody, so.
Yes, I mean, it's going way back.
Well,
Even Louis, the trumpet player, Louis Armstrong, in a great photo with you.
oh, yes.
Strong.
Yeah, those are people that came to town, and while they were in town, you know, I got a chance to meet them, and with Louis Armstrong, we spoke some Yiddish.
Yeah.
You know that he spoke.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he was raised by Jewish
Oh,
folk.
wow. That's interesting.
That's beautiful. Yeah,
We'll be back in a couple minutes. Just a quick break with that. We'll be back with
I'll be right here.
Welcome back, and we're speaking with Nelson Sardelli. And Nelson, I got to ask you about Judy Garland.
Yes, that's again another person that I never thought that I would meet. What happened is when I first came to Vegas, I was in the lounge of the Thunderbird. You know, it was an afternoon show, and I was the star of the show. And we had two shows, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and the place was filled up every time. So now as the time went by, different stars came to town, and Judy Garland came to the Sahara. That at the same time, they were connected, you know, management and ownership, Thunderbird, Sahara. And when she came to town, she came with the Allen brothers, which one of them married her daughter, you know, from Australia, the kids. And they were at the Sahara, main room. I am in the lounge, nice, quiet. But they needed an extra act besides the dancing, the Allen brothers and Judy Garland. They need somebody to give time for the orchestra to be removed from the pit. And Stan Irwin at the time, he was very much involved with the Sahara, told my manager, George says, what about Nelson? And they came to me. And they wanted me to do, for the first time in my life, straight comedy. You know, stand out. I used to sing, do comedy, do the guns, so I did stuff. I wasn't great at anybody, but I was the best Nelson Sardelli you could only get. So I wouldn't do it. I said, no, I'm the big fish here. Why should I be a little piranha over there? And they couldn't understand that I refused the chance. And they actually worked on me and convinced me. First, they're going to give me 8 minutes. Then they gave me a few more minutes. And then I said, okay, I need a song to get out. Because comedians, they say, well, thank you and good night. I never thought that I could get away with that, thank you and good night. I said, let me sing a song and walk away. I did 23 minutes.
Wow, that's a lot.
But what was beautiful, because I hate to say this, that expression, standing ovation, but I got, you know what I mean? But I never forget one night, I finished the show, and this guy came running to me, says, I gotta shake your hand. I said, oh boy, have I made. Guys were shaking my hand for the show that they saw. He says, I want to shake your hand because I know that backstage you mustn't touch Judy Garland. I said, gee, how to deflate it? I say, it goes slower.
Wow.
But it was great. It was great. Yeah.
How was she?
We got along fine again. You know, I didn't bother her. She didn't bother me. And on the following night, Monday, she called me. She said, Nelson, I would like for you to escort me. I would like to see some of the other lounge, the other hotels and things. And we went, and it was wonderful. We had a photographer going and taking pictures of it. I wish I had those photos, and was good. And then we went our separate ways.
Pat said she was lovely. He met her at the Copa, and he said she was just delightful and really kind.
With me, I was wonderful. Like, you got the feeling that you had met her for a long time.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Super. Okay, we'll have another story from you when we get back from a break. Nelson Sardelli, we'll be back shortly with more Legends and Laughs. And we're back with more Legends and Laughs with Nelson Sardelli. And we got to hear the story, Nelson, about Sammy Davis Jr., please.
Well, with Sammy, I got a few stories. It was great. The man was so talented that, you cannot say enough words about his talent. But we had a couple of things that was funny. First, he made me follow him in a show in Los Angeles on the Coconut Grove. It was an afternoon thing, but I had to follow him, and it was, it's kind of tough. But I did it. At one time, I asked him, I say, Sammy, we collect guns? He was a pretty good guy with guns, So was I. I said, do you collect guns? He said, yeah, I do. I said, do you have the Sesquicentennial California, He says, no. I said, I have 19 of them. I give you one. I brought to him the gun. And that night he was uptight. That's a word that I use when it comes to Sammy Davis Jr. He was always uptight. So I didn't give the gun to him. I had to give to Rhodes, his musical director, because I didn't want to make him think that I was there wanting to hang with him. I just brought the gun. So I got the wooden box, and with a pen engraved very hard to Sammy from Nelson Sardelli. I gave to Rhodes, say, please give it to him. Make sure he let me know that he got it, because, this is the time of the Symbionese army with, Angela Davis and all that. And I have a federal license for guns. I need to know that he got it. And 1 year went by and never heard from him. A year later, Norm Kay, who was my best man in my wedding, had an opening of this property. And they invite Sammy to come and cut the ribbon. And there I was, because I was invited too. And Sammy, 1 year later, got off the limousine and didn't even go to the place he came. Actually, to me, I have that picture taken at that moment.
Yeah.
He says, Nelson, I've been meaning to tell about the gun. I say, Sammy, it's a whole year had gone by, Well, I have a gun, for instance, that is part of, in the book says that it's his gun. And it's not, it's mine.
Is it?
Yeah, because when Joe Condon engraved that gun for Sammy gave him a 6 months post-dated check. Joe came to me with tears in his eyes. Nelson, what do I do with this? I said, go back to Sammy and say it's, that's how you make your living. Tell him that you hawk the gun, and then when he got the money, you give it to him. So he came back to my dressing room at the Flamingo. He says, man, you was bad. Man, I said, well, I guess he was, but he says, what do I do now? I say, hawk the gun like I told you, or sell to a friend of yours who will not pay as much as Sammy would, but will give you cash. And I got the gun.
Yeah, and you have the gun?
Oh, I have the gun,
okay.
Yeah. It's
okay.
And a similar gun has been sold for $1,000.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yes.
Well, listen, thank you for the stories. I know that you have many more. We're going to have you back on.
That story.
Sure. This is fun. This
Yeah.
is like conversation, hanging out. Next week, we're going to have Pete Barbuti on,
Love that man.
another legendary Las Vegas resident and brilliant entertainer. So join us next week for more Legends and Laughs. And thank you so much, Nelson.
Thank you. I hope I did. Yeah, okay, thank you. I appreciate you on.
Of course. We'll see you next week.